Going on, everybody? It's Key Time coming back with another one to talk about the three game fives I saw last night in the NBA playoffs. There was a lot of tight tight games that happened last night in the NBA, and plus there were some sequences that led up to those tight moments down in the fourth quarter and even in the first game between the 76ers and the New York Knicks. Now I'm going to talk about all three series in a, I'm going to talk about all three series as of right now. Now, in the first game, the Philadelphia 76ers, everybody know coming into the game, they were down 3-1. If they don't win this game, then their season is over with. And last night, one thing I can say is that Tyrese Maxey came through. He had a monster game last night. He had 46 points in 52 minutes. And including overtime, they played 55 minutes. So he was basically in the game for he was basically playing the game for most of it. Now, one thing about it is that with Joel Embiid, he only had 19 points. But when you have a player like what Tyrese Maxey did last night, when you see a player that's making shot after shot, five straight shots consecutively, he made two or three times throughout the game, you know, just to feed him the ball. Now, as far as the New York Knicks concerned, I gotta talk about their strategy in the last few minutes of the fourth quarter and overtime. We know that you have Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson is the best player on your team. We know that, but you cannot keep calling every play for him. Now it was four straight times they came down the court where Jalen Brunson, he had the ball and did not take good shots. And when he did take a good shot, it was he passed it to his teammate. Now, we already know that Jalen Brunson is gonna get a lot of attention since he's the best player on the team. It's time for those other guys on the New York Knicks to step up like they did in game one, two, three, and four. Now, I'm gonna tell you from the New York Knicks, not too many of them had a good game last night. We had Josh Hart with his 18, OG Anunoby with his 17, but then you have Isaiah Hardenstein with 6. And then you have Dante DiVincenzo with only 9 points. And Miles McBride, he had 14. Everybody that comes off the bench, they have to at least score. I'm going to say this, they have to at least score 15 points a game in order to win this series. Now, as far as game six back in Philadelphia, if the New York Knicks close the 76ers out in game 6, they will have 2, maybe 3 days of rest before they have to come back and play the next opponent. But I think that this is going to go the full 7 games because I think that the 76ers will protect home court in game 6 and the New York Knicks, they will win in game 7. But they missed a golden opportunity last night to win this series and have a few extra days of rest. When you're a young team and trying to find your way as far as being a playoff contender and championship contender, you're going to have games like this. You're going to have slip ups here and there. But all in all, this was a good game. But as far as the New York Knicks, you up by 5 with under a minute to play, and you lose that lead, and then To make matters worse, you were up by 6 with under 30 seconds to play. Game already wrapped up, series wrapped up. You about to go on to the next round, and then you let Tyrese Maxey make 2 contested threes. And I'm surprised that he got the shot off because the defender was already in his face when he came across half court, and then he made the shot. It went into overtime, and we all know how overtime panned out for the Philadelphia 76ers. So they win game 5. Game 6 is Thursday, and we will see what goes on there. Now, as far as for the next series concerned, Orlando Magic and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, this has been an up and down series for both teams. You got the Cavaliers that won the first 2 games at home in dominant fashion, in blowout fashion. And then you have the Orlando Magic when they came home, won games 3 and 4 in dominant fashion. And then last night, you had a close game throughout the entirety of the game. And not to mention, the Orlando Magic, there was only 3 guys that were in double figures last night. 3. And I'm gonna give you their names and how many points they scored. Pablo Banchero, he had 39 points and 8 rebounds. Franz Wagner had 14 points and 5 rebounds. Jalen Suggs had 13 points and 5 rebounds. Now, one thing I can say, the Orlando Magic had a chance at winning this game. It was so close. If it wasn't for Franz Wagner, he shouldn't have used his right hand on that layup because that was a game-winning layup. He should have used his left hand, but Evan Mobley, he blocked the shot from his left hand, and that is how the Cavaliers win that game. Not to mention that they had 5 players score over 10 points, and I'm going to give you those names. Max Struss had 16 points. Evan Mobley had 14 points. Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, both had 28 points and 23 points, respectively. Marcus Morris Sr. had 12 points. So when you have 5 guys scoring over 10 points, and plus you have decent bench production because the bench scored 22 points last night. And as far as the free throw disparity, that was like it wasn't much of an advantage for the Cavaliers. Cavaliers free throw 15 out of 19 from the free throw line. Orlando Magic 22 of 29 from the free throw line. But one thing is, the Orlando Magic out-rebounded the Cavaliers and still lost the game. Now, one thing, turnovers also hurt them too, because they had 14 turnovers and the Cavaliers had 10. Now, Game 6 is back in Orlando on Friday. Let's see if the Orlando Magic can bounce back and push this to a decisive winner-take-all Game 7. One thing I can say about the Orlando Magic, they have a young squad. They are the 3rd youngest team in the NBA. So this is a learning experience for them. I believe last night they can take away something from last night, meaning that when they come back for Game 7, because I believe that Orlando, they're going to take care of home court. So when they come back for Game 7, they know that they can win Game 7 on the road because of last night's performance. They know that they have the confidence now to stay with the Cavaliers when they play in Cleveland. So that's all I got for that series. Now, the last series I want to talk about is another 3-1 series, and the Indiana Pacers blew a golden opportunity to win last night. So everybody knows the final score. I'm not gonna get into that. I'm not gonna get into the final score. But what I will get into is matchups and schemes. Cause we all know for the Indiana Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton, he is the driving force for the Indiana Pacers. He is. Last night, what Milwaukee did, they did the same thing that they did in game 2. Game 2, they started doubling Tyrese Halliburton. And Indiana, they couldn't do their pick and roll and switches like they did in games 3 and 4. I noticed that when Tyrese Halliburton had the ball in his hand, a defender was already on him. He had the ball and a defender was like right here, already in his face. So Tyrese Halliburton, he didn't have a good game. He only had 16 points. Andrew Nabar, he only had 12 points. And Pascal Siakam had 12 points. And their center, Miles Turner, only had 13. One thing about it is, and not forget to mention, Obi Toppin had 12 points. So, as far as the Indiana Pacers, we all know that they are the best offensive team in the NBA, but they struggle on defense. This is the this series will come down to who has more timely stops, because we all know that the Milwaukee Bucks, they don't have a good defense neither when it comes to defending their opponent. So when it comes down to it, this series is about getting timely stops. If the Indiana Pacers can get timely stops, they will win this series in game 6. Now, last night is the third time in 82 games including the playoffs that Indiana was held under 100. I'm gonna give you the teams that held Indiana under 100 points. Milwaukee did it last night and in game 2, plus not to mention the third time in the regular season they was held under 100 points to the Chicago Bulls. So one thing about it is, the way to beat Indiana is doubling Tyrese Halliburton, making sure you stay home with their shooters, with Pascal Siakam, Andrew Nabar, and Aaron Naismith. You have to stay home with all of them and let Tyrese Halliburton win if you let Tyrese Halliburton win the game, Tyrese Halliburton will have 30 to 35 points. If you let what the Milwaukee Bucks did last night, they came out and said Tyrese Halliburton is not going to win this game for Indiana. They made sure that the other teammates won the game for them, and all of them were struggling last night. So, as far as game 6 is back in Indiana, I believe Indiana, they will win game 6, and that'll be a clincher for the Indiana Pacers. If the Indiana Pacers win, they will be facing the winner of the Philadelphia 76ers and New York Knicks. Now that is going to be a great playoff series when it happens. Now, as far as the last few things I want to say before I get out of here, free throw disparities. The Milwaukee Bucks had 20 free throw attempts, made 16. The Indiana Pacers had 13 and only made 8. Now, as far as the Milwaukee Bucks, they out rebounded the Indiana Pacers by 12. Also, as far as turnovers, the Indiana Pacers had a lot of turnovers last night. To be exact, they had 12. And points in the paint, Milwaukee, they had an advantage on that too. Now, can Milwaukee go on the road and win game 6? Game 6, it's going to be a shootout because we know that both of these teams, they can't string together timely stops. Whoever in game 6 strings together more timely stops than the other team will win game 6. If it's the Milwaukee Bucks, then we know that we have game 7 back in Milwaukee. But when it comes to the Indiana Pacers, I just don't think that they're going to lose game 6 at home because they've had one of the best records at home throughout the entirety of the regular season, and they haven't lost a home game in the playoffs yet. And with that, those are my reactions from last night's game 5s in the NBA playoffs between the Milwaukee Bucks, Indiana Pacers, New York Knicks, Philadelphia 76ers, and the Orlando Magic and Cleveland Cavaliers. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, click the notification bell so that you can so that you can be notified when I upload all content, my reaction videos and daily reaction shows when it comes to the NBA. And one other thing, I always finish out with this. Remember, the key is always on time.